A coastal city in Tang, China, 820s AD. In an open-air market along the waterfront, Korean men and women stand in ropes. Chinese traders move down the rows, examining them, arguing prices. These people are not prisoners of war. They were fishermen, farmers, coastal villagers, kidnapped from Korean shores by pirate fleets, loaded onto ships, carried across the Yellow Sea, and sold in foreign cities. This happened every year, for decades. Thousands of Koreans. One man saw this. He was Korean. He wore a Tang military uniform. He had risen through the ranks of a foreign army as an outsider, which means he was exceptional. He stood in that market and watched his own people traded like livestock in a city that was not their home. He could not stop it that day. Paradox, he had no noble blood, no royal title, no inherited land. He was a commoner from a small island off Korea's southwest coast. Born into a kingdom where birth determined your ceiling and talent changed nothing. Stay with me. Because this commoner eliminated an entire slave trade, built the dominant trading empire connecting Korea, China, and Japan, and decided who sat on the Korean throne 900 years before any European company tried something remotely similar. Now, let me show you how. Jang Bogo was born around 787 AD, likely near Wando Island on Korea's southwest coast, in the kingdom of Unified Silla. Unified Silla ran on a rigid social hierarchy called the bone rank system. Your family's rank determined your rank forever. There was no path upward through talent, service, or excellence. The system simply did not allow it. So when a young man from the Korean coast had ambition and no aristocratic blood, he had one option: leave. Korean emigrants crossed the Yellow Sea to Tang, China, in significant numbers. Some sought trade, some sought military service, some sought a world where what you could do mattered more than who your grandfather was. Jang Bogo crossed that sea and never looked back. At least, not yet. In Tang, China, specifically the Chuzhou military region, Korean emigrants could serve in the Tang army. This was rare in the medieval world, a foreign-born soldier earning rank inside one of history's most powerful military machines. Jang Bogo did exactly that. He trained, he fought, he rose. Tang China in this era was vast and politically fractured, still recovering from the devastation of the An-Lushan rebellion decades earlier. The military needed capable men regardless of origin, and Jang Bogo proved himself capable in ways that mattered: tactics, command, discipline. By his late 30s, he held genuine military rank in a foreign empire, a feat that says more about his ability than any title Silla ever would have given him. And then he walked through those markets. This is the pivot, not a battlefield, not a court, a slave market. Korean captives appeared throughout Tang coastal cities, sold openly, bought openly, recorded in Tang ledgers as property. Pirates operated along both Korean and Chinese coastlines, with near impunity, raiding Korean fishing villages, loading their catches onto ships, and crossing the Yellow Sea to sell them in mainland markets. Tang sources recorded this. Later, Japanese sources recorded this. The monk Ennen would write about it. Everyone who traveled that coast saw it. Nobody stopped it. Jang Bogo saw it as a Korean soldier in a foreign uniform, someone who had traded one world for another and now stood in the gap between them. He understood both the military power that could end this and the political will that would be required. He chose to go back and build both. The decision that changes history does not always look like a decision at the time. It looks like a man walking away from a market. Around 828 AD, Jang Bogo returned to Silla and went directly to King Hungdeok. What he proposed was not a petition. It was a strategic plan laid out by a man who had spent years inside the Tang military and understood coastal defense, naval logistics, and the geography of the Yellow Sea. Build a fortress on Wando Island. Give me soldiers. I will end the slave trade. King Hungdeok said yes, which tells you something about how Jang Bogo presented his case, and something about how serious the problem had become, even from the king's perspective. He walked out of that court with royal authorization and went to work. On Wando Island, the same waters where Korean pirates launched their raids, and where he himself was likely born, Jang Bogo built Cheonghaejin, a fortified naval complex, 10,000 soldiers and sailors recruited, trained, and stationed, fleets constructed. The island transformed into the controlling node of Yellow Sea maritime traffic. This was not a patrol post. This was a naval state within a state, a strategic installation designed to dominate the sea lanes that connected Korea to China and Japan. The pirates who had raided Korean coastlines for decades now faced a naval force that outmatched them completely. There was no hiding from Cheonghaejin. There was no negotiating with it. The island that had once been just one more piece of Korea's southwestern coast became the most strategically important point in East Asian maritime geography. Here is what Tang sources record, unambiguously. After Cheonghaejin was established, not a single Korean was sold as a slave in Tang, China. Not one. Jang Bogo did not reduce the slave trade. He did not regulate it or push it to different routes. He eliminated it completely within a few years of building his fortress. A practice that had continued for decades, that had destroyed thousands of Korean lives, simply stopped. The Tang records note the change. The silence in those records is the achievement. This alone places Jang Bogo among the most consequential figures in Korean history. But the fortress was not just a military installation. It was also a trading hub. And that is where the story accelerates. Control the sea lanes, and you control trade. Jang Bogo understood this with the precision of someone who had watched Tang China's military operations from the inside and understood how power actually moved across water. From Cheonghaejin, he built a trading network connecting Silla, Tang China, and Japan, the three dominant civilizations of East Asian commerce. Korean merchant ships operated under his protection across the entire region. Traders paid for access. Diplomatic connections ran through his network. The Japanese Buddhist monk Ennen, traveling through Tang China between 838 and 847 AD, documented all of this in his diary. The Nitoguho Junrei Koki. Korean temples lined the Chinese coast. Korean merchants appeared at every trading port. Korean networks made travel across the region possible in ways it simply had not been before. Ennen traveled safely through Tang China, partly because Jang Bogo's infrastructure made it possible. One man, from one island, was running the arteries of East Asian commerce. What the British East India Company would attempt to construct control of maritime trade across an entire region. Jang Bogo built 900 years earlier, starting from a small Korean island with royal permission and 10,000 men. And then he decided to start influencing who wore the crown. Power at this scale generates political gravity. In 836 AD, Silla entered a succession crisis. Multiple noble factions fought for the throne. One claimant, Kim Woo-jing, who would reign as King Sinmu, came to Jang Bogo for military support. Jang Bogo sent 5,000 soldiers. King Sinmu won. The man born to commoners with no political standing had become the decisive force in Silla's royal succession. He received the title of Grand Commissioner. As reward, it was promised that his daughter would marry into the royal family, a bridge between the maritime lord and the court that had once been entirely beyond his reach. He had left Silla with nothing but ability. He came back with a king on his side. But the royal court drew a line. A commoner's daughter marrying into the Silla royal family was unacceptable to the aristocracy. Regardless of promises made, regardless of what that commoner had built, regardless of the fact that his soldiers had put the current king on the throne, the bone rank system that had forced Jang Bogo to leave Korea as a young man now reasserted itself at the moment of his greatest power. Subsequent kings refused the marriage. The system that determined your ceiling by birth had decided that his ceiling, even now, was here. The court had given him everything except the one thing that would have permanently embedded him in the dynasty. That refusal was a death sentence, though it took a few years to arrive. In 846 AD, a man named Jong arrived at Cheonghaejin. He had been sent by the Silla court. He carried a blade. Jang Bogo was assassinated, the most powerful maritime figure in East Asian history. The man who had built a naval state, eliminated a slave trade, and made kings died at the hands of a court-dispatched killer on the same island where he had built everything he owned. He was 59 years old. The Silla government moved fast. Cheonghaejin was dismantled. The island was depopulated. The fleet dispersed. Every physical structure Jang Bogo had built was erased with the urgency of people who understood exactly what he had proven was possible. But the record survived. Tang sources, Enin's diary, Japanese chronicles, all of them documented what one Korean commoner from a small island had built, the dominant maritime trading network of the East Asian world in the 9th century AD. The British East India Company, 900 years later, with the backing of a European empire, attempted something similar in scale. Jang Bogo did it alone, starting from a request made in a royal audience hall. And while he was doing it, he abolished slavery. That is Jang Bogo, a commoner who built what empires would later envy from an island they tried to erase from history. The island is still there.